the government's plan to ease its coronavirus lockdown has been labelled chaotic and confusing. Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced a phased approach to lifting restrictions, starting with the construction and manufacturing industries returning to work on Monday. But within hours, his own ministers were contradicting his orders, saying workers shouldn't return until Wednesday. Sarah Morice takes a look at the plan and the response it's received.
The UK has been in lockdown for 7 weeks. The daily death toll is dropping, but the government says it's too early to significantly lift the lockdown. Instead, it's released a plan outlining how it will reopen society in phases. This week, people who can't work from home, like those in manufacturing and construction, have been asked to go back to work. Starting Wednesday, Brits will be allowed unlimited amounts of outdoor exercise by themselves or with people they live with. From June, some shops and primary schools could reopen, and if infection rates are low enough by July, then cafes and restaurants might be able to start trading again.
And of course, we will be monitoring our progress locally, regionally, and nationally. And if there are outbreaks, if there are problems, we will not hesitate to put on the brakes. We've been through the initial peak, but it's coming down the mountain that is often more dangerous.
But the new rules won't apply to everyone in the UK. The government has changed its slogan from stay home to stay alert, and the leaders of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland say that's too vague and confusing.
To that end, I have asked the UK Government not to deploy their Stay Alert advertising campaign in Scotland, because the message in Scotland at this stage is not stay at home if you can. The message is, except for the essential reasons you know about, stay at home, full stop.
On Monday, roads and railways were their busiest in recent weeks as some people heeded the call to return to work. But business is calling for clarity following revelations the government's health and safety guidelines for social distancing in workplaces won't be released until Tuesday. The push to restart the economy follows a warning from the central bank last week that the coronavirus crisis could push Britain into its deepest recession in 300 years. But the hazy nature of the government's instructions has left people not only confused, but also worried that the restrictions are being lifted before the country is ready. Sarah Morice, TRT World.
Well, let's go back to Fabian Zuleeg, Chief Economist at the European Policy Centre in Brussels, to get more on this. Fabian, as you heard there, the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has been criticised for just how confusing and vague his advice is. For example, he's telling workers who can't work from home to go back to their offices but avoid public transport. He's also saying that people should aim to wear masks in confined spaces, so he's not making it mandatory. What do you make of this vagueness? What is the Prime Minister starting to do here? Why isn't he being more decisive?
I think what we're seeing is a Prime Minister who's being pushed very hard to reopen. There are a number of people in his own party which are very keen to have a quick return to work. But the difficulty here is that it is far from clear whether the UK is ready for this step. In a number of other countries where we are starting a slow easing of the restrictions, we've actually seen declining numbers. In the UK, at best, we are at a constant rate, not even at a declining rate yet. So it looks very much like there is a pressure to go too fast, that the precautionary principle is being set aside. But then there's a kickback from the other nations of the United Kingdom, from health professionals, from the population, which is more concerned. And then there's a revision of the advice. There's a change in what is actually being put out by the government. And this, I would say, is the worst of all worlds. It creates a lot of uncertainty. It creates a very difficult psychological situation, because if people think that some other people are allowed to do things again, why not me? So at the moment, it doesn't look like the UK government is handling the situation very well.
No, it doesn't, does it? Fabian Zuleeg in Brussels, Chief Economist at the European Policy Centre. Thank you so much again for joining us.